All right. You are welcome to GST 101. For the past few weeks, we've been discussing different aspects of skill acquisition for learning, skill acquisition for listening and reading. Our interest has been on how to acquire the skills of listening and reading. Last week we were trying to explain all over again what reading was. We did mention that reading is a technique. You need the technique. You need the technique of learning to read, because reading basically has to do with interpreting meanings from written symbols. So you've got to be able to know, you have to know the techniques, the skills that are required to be able to effectively interpret meaning from written symbols. And you know, as students, you deal with a lot of written symbols. You work on, you read books, you read study materials, you do a lot of work. And so you need to have the skill of how to work on, how to make meaning out of the things you read. If you remember, the last time we met, we were trying to know who a slow reader is. One of the major characteristics of a slow reader that we identified last week was that a slow reader will naturally be that reader who pronounces words silently as they read, as he or she reads. Pronounces words silently as he or she reads, and that is called vocalization. And then, of course, we said a slow reader will regress. There's something about a slow reader that we also call regression. That he reads and he reads all over again. He keeps reading and rereading what he has read. Those are part of the characteristics of who a slow reader is. And if you remember also, for those of us who were online or those of us who have watched the video, you know, we identified the 3 types of reading speed that we have. We said one of the reading speed is the slow reading speed. Another one is the average reading speed. And the third one is the fast, or in some cases, they call it the fastest reading speed, you know. And we did try to explain, you know, the situations, the reading situations in which these 3 forms of reading could manifest. For example, the slow reading speed is needed when you need to study. The average reading speed is needed when you are reading a book that, you know, has that, where you read a book where the author used simple language, not technical, for example, novels, okay? And if you remember, we also did say that the fast reading speed is the one you use when the intention is to get a general information from a reading material. You want to get a general information, or you're looking for a specific information from a large chunk of literature. You may need to use the fast reading speed. All right. Now today, we're still going to be making progress on reading and comprehending at the different speed levels. Right. And then we're going to be doing a little bit of more of practicals, you know. We're going to look at instances where you need to apply the fast reading speed, the average reading speed. I don't know if we'll be able to get to the slow reading speed today, but we'll work on the first 2 and then we'll go from there. We'll see how far we can go from there. Okay. If you remember in the last class, we talked about skimming and scanning. Can anybody remember? I'm seeing Liago Kilka Power for the first time. You're welcome. We mentioned scanning and skimming last week, if you remember, Sarah.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And these are two forms of fast reading speed. Okay. These are two forms of fast reading speed, skimming and scanning. And why would anybody want to skim? You skim when the intention is to you just want to get a general information from a piece of reading material. You skim. You quickly look around. I'm sure you've done it now and then. Well, you may have done it without really knowing what you were doing, but it's called skimming. You just try to look around. Your eyes go to fro, up, down, trying to get information that you need for a particular reason. And then you skim for, you skim when you're trying to get a general information. You scan when the intention is to locate a specific information. That's when you scan. But these are they are the fast reading speed, the two forms of it. Now, last week, if you remember, what we did last week was to look at them individually, okay? But then it is possible to skim and scan at the same time. You want to apply the fast reading speed. You can use the two techniques of reading at a very fast pace at the same time. You could skim and scan at the same time. And it is believed that a good reader will be able to achieve up to 50% comprehension while skimming and scanning at 800 words per minute. A good reader should be able to skim and scan at the same time and then achieve up to 50% comprehension. Now we're going to be doing something interesting.
Yes, sir.
We're going to be doing something interesting as we go on now. I'll be sharing something, and I will expect that you will, look at what I want to do. We're going to be doing something together. It's like an exercise. So let's go. I hope we're with me. Can you see the screen now? Now let's look at these questions together before we do something immediately. Fill in the blanks once you find the answer. Record the time you start the exercise and when you finish. What is the view of Olu Leo Ezekiel dash? What is the gold mine of wisdom for raising a son? In what media is Bring Up Your Boys? What is the hope of conflict resolution? Which war is reported in one of the extracts? In what ways are boys different from, in what ways are boys different? Okay. Now, I decided to read that to you, and then we're going to be doing an exercise together now. You are going to read this page that is before me. We have only 5 minutes to do it. We can start now. I want us to read this page in 5 minutes. Thank you. It's ended. If you have not been able to finish, the implication is that you are not yet able to read at a very fast speed, because we started 3:13 and we stopped 3:18. That's 5 minutes. Okay, so we'll discuss this. But I want you to note page 303 to 305. When you get home, you practice on your own. You try to see if you can make it in 5 minutes or close to 5 minutes. You get it, because there are questions following as well. So you've got to be able to do this for you to become a fast reader. And it's important that you become a fast reader. For example, let me pick a question. In what media is Bring Up Your Voice? I'll take it back. Please remember, in what media is Bring Up Your Voice? Now let's go back to Bring Up Your Voice. I'm going to give a teaser so that it's easy to understand. Now, in what media is Bring Up Your Voice? Information is here. I want to know if you understand this. Look at it closely. In what media is Bring Up Your Voice?
Hardcover.
Sorry?
Hardcover. Hardcover.
Not just hardcover.
Cassette and compact discs.
Yes. When we talk about media, we're talking about the mode of presentation of a material, okay? And you can see the teasers are there, the clues to knowing the media. The book is in form of compact disc, in form of, you can get it as cassettes, and you can get it as hardcover. Hardcover will mean what, please? Hardcover will mean?
The book.
The book.
Or a book.
The book, yes. The book. Which of the articles is not in favor of Southwest, and why? When you were reading, did you see any of the articles that wasn't in favor of the Southwest? I'll give a clue first of all. Under Ige, it had to do with the mother of Ige, Bola Ige. And I'll tell you, it is this article. Please read quickly and tell me why you think so. You'll find the answer in the first paragraph. I'm already through with the paragraph, and I'll tell you my secret. All right. So why do you, this article is actually the one by J. Okunlola is the one that is not in favor of the Southwest. And I've given you the clue, is in the answer, you know, the pointer to that is in the first paragraph. Now, what do you think, why do you think he's not in favor of the Southwest? Now, here is the answer. It's so simple. The last two lines will give you the teaser. The lesson inherent in that violence, the lesson inherent is that violence will continue to reign in Yoruba land, except the people eschew politics without bitterness. So the writer believes that the people of the Southwest practice politics with bitterness. That's the clue. All right. Now, I want to say this. I want to say that when you skim and scan at the same time, something is likely going to happen to you. Your eyes will move back and forth, trying to locate the relevant extracts and relevant answers. Your eyes will move very fast. And I want to also say, because while we were reading, I was looking at us. If you want to skim and scan and do it and do it effectively, you've got to keep your head in one position. Are you getting it? Your head stays in one position, but your eyes move. Okay? Your eyes do the movement, not your head. If you must keep doing this, going this way, you are a slow reader. Your head has to stay in one position, and your eyes move. Your eyes do the moving. The movement is done by your eyes, not your head. Okay, and of course, when you are skimming and scanning at the same time, you try to locate headings, subheadings, titles, relevant names, topics, very, very fast. When you do this, what will happen is you will be able, to connect. You'll be able to connect information and the things that you need to know, very, very fast. Okay, so now let's look at, we talked about average reading speed the last time also. If you remember, those of us who were online, we talked about average reading speed. And we did say that you use average reading speed for books that are not so technical, all right? Books like novels. I want to classify newspapers as part of what you can, the reading materials that you can use average reading speed for. These are the type of materials that you need average reading speed for. Now, average reading speed is you use this for reading books, that are written in simple sentences, that are colorful, have colorful inscription, have signposts that can help you, quickly navigate and understand. So books like novels, non-technical books, articles, soft materials generally, you use average reading speed for them. Now, you will require reading 250 to 500 words per minute for you to be able to comprehend 70% of the reading material. 250 to 500 words per minute, that's the speed for you to be able to comprehend 70%. If you are reading 300 words per minute and you comprehend just about 30 to 40%, then it's not ideal. You're not really effectively using average reading speed. Okay. Now we're going to apply that as well. I hope I find it easily. It's in one of your, let's look for it. Okay. Now we're going to use average reading speed for another material, another article in your course material. The title is The Inefficacy of the Confederal System. I'm going to be sharing this with you. I want to see, okay. So we're going to start now. We have 4 minutes for this.
Don't beat yourself up, Johnny. You too, Haji. I'm proud of you. Yeah? Absolutely. What other boys would have had the courage and resourcefulness to travel across continents to track us down in the middle of a volcano? Gee, thanks, Race. As a matter of fact, in the jet. Yeah, the jet.
Stop. In fact, we overshot by a few seconds. We overshot by a few seconds. I deliberately decided to, because I was being interrupted here and there. But what do you think this passage is about? What do you think this is about? What do you think is about? What we just read now? Somebody wants to say? Meanwhile, it is 980 words, and you were expected to have read it in 4 minutes. So if you were not able to read it in 4 minutes, it means you are still struggling with being an average reader. You are still struggling with reading at average speed. And so that means you really need to come up, and work on it. So page 307 to 309, you need to work on that on your own. Then you answer the questions on 309 to 310 on your own, The writer is trying to advocate that Nigeria needs not break up, trying to bring up the different strengths that each of the regions have. And so to argue that there's no need for the nation to break up. All right, that's the crux of this article. Now, if you remember, the last of the reading speed is the study speed, reading speed. That's the one. The slow reading speed or the study speed level. If for the slow reading speed, you need the slow reading speed when you're actually, for example, studying for an exam. You need the slow reading speed because you need high level concentration. And when you're studying for exam, for example, you need to pay attention to specific details in your course materials, in other books that you have to read. So you need high level concentration and you need to pay attention to specific details. And so you need this slow reading speed, for this. Sorry, somebody is raising his hand. Who might that be? I think I missed it. And then when you're doing your slow reading speed, for example, you're studying for an exam, you do some things when you're using the slow reading speed. You are able to read and reread what the points that you're jotting down, and then at this point you do note making. You write notes. And I want to ask, we discussed some time ago the difference between note making and note writing. Can we remember? Note making, note writing, when do you need to do note writing? Note taking, sorry. When do you need to take notes? We discussed note taking and then, writing notes. We discussed this some time ago. You make notes and then you take notes. When do you take notes?
When you're in a lecture.
Yes, when you are attending a lecture, when you're watching a documentary, watching a video, perhaps if you're at a campaign, at a rally, you could take notes. But you make notes when you're studying. You're on your own, you're studying, you're trying to write down things that impressions that you have got from a text, from a book. So let's say, for example, you want to make a note from a book. The first thing you need to do, just like listening skill, if you remember listening skill, for those of us who have been following from the start, you don't start writing immediately. When you're making notes, you're reading on your own as a student, studying for exams, you don't start writing immediately. You try to understand, first of all, what the textbook is about. What is the writer saying? What is the thrust of the text? Then you pay attention to headings, subheadings, because sometimes these are indicators of the major points in the book. So you pay attention to the headings and the subheadings in the book. You also pay attention to signals. For example, if you are reading and you see something like, it's worth remembering that you know that there is a major point there. You are reading a book and you see firstly or first, secondly or second, or you see something like the major point is moreover,
therefore,
furthermore, things like that. You know that these are indicators of major points that you need to pay attention to. So when you're trying to make your notes, when you now understand what the thrust of the text is about, the book is about, you can then write down the major points that you have identified. You don't write everything. For example, the article we just read now for about 4 minutes, there are major points there on the reason why Nigeria shouldn't break up. The author had facts to back up his arguments. So you look for those major points that you have identified and you write them down. And when you write down the major points, when you write down your major points, you look for the major words, look for major words in the article. You don't just keep writing, you look for the major words. For example, let's go back. Let's go back to the article we read, the inefficacy of the confederal system. Let me try to share it with you again, and then you get what I'm saying now. Let's go back to this article that we read for 4 minutes. See what I mean by how you can get to major points. If you come to the second paragraph now, he said, let's look at the preamble. I have carefully studied the motive of those who are agitating for a confederacy in Nigeria, and I found 2 issues to be uppermost in the minds of these advocates. Now, where is the signal that you see immediately after that first paragraph? Who can say? What's the signal for a major point coming?
One of the issues.
Thank you. That is it. These are ways to know major points. Are you getting it? As soon as you see that, it's a clue to say that there's a major point here. One of the issues is the question of the leadership of the country and the inordinate ambition of a certain section of the nation to produce the president of the country from that section at all costs. Do we see another? Do we see another?
Yes.
Yeah, where?
Yes, the other reason.
Good. The other reason is oil. Yes. These are the ways by which you can, as a student, get to know the major points. These are very, very easy ways. And when you get to know the major points, go for the major points. Write down the major words or phrases that give the maximum information about the major points. Don't write everything. We're talking about study speed now. We're talking about you reading for an exam, okay, trying to study on your own, don't forget. And these are some of the techniques that you need to do that. When you identify the major points, and just like we have done now, there are clues to knowing the major points. The other reason, the first reason, therefore, nevertheless, in contrast, those are ways to know that these are major points. And when you do find them, you write them down in as precise and concise language as possible, in a very precise language, so that it's easy for you to understand later. And now let's say, for example, I'm making a note. When I make a note, I've got to make the note in such a way that when I come back to it later, remember that making a note, we're not talking about the one you write during lectures, that's taking notes. When you're making notes, it's at your study time. And when you make notes, you want, even the materials you wrote during your, during lectures will be part of the materials or the resources that you could, use in making your notes. Now, when you're making notes, you want to write your note in such a way that when you revisit, you will be able to understand what